I got to roll up the sleeves here as we get ready for a busy Saturday in the sports world. Alex Glaze joined by Jared Smith and Mark Zinno. This is Let's Bet It. But before we get to the show, boys, Jared, you learned a valuable lesson that I tried. I tried to tell people about this like 2, maybe 3 months ago, but you learned it the hard way last night. I want you to talk to the people about Will Wade and LSU basketball. Tell them what they need to know, what I've been telling them, but tell them what you learned yesterday about Will Wade and LSU basketball.
This is a mea culpa. This is one of those moments where I was stubborn. I needed to see it for myself. So I watch games a lot more closely when I have money on them. When I don't have money on them, I'm watching. When you have money on a game, you're locked in. So I was locked into LSU yesterday, and they played an amazing first half against Arkansas. I think the Razorbacks came out a little bit sluggish, as a lot of these higher seeds have done in the high major tournaments in the first half in their first game. And 3-point lead, 30 seconds left, everything's going great, and then LSU gets a ticky-tack foul called against them, that puts Arkansas at the line. And at worst, 30 seconds left in the half, Will Wade, you could just relax, take the 2 free throws, then take your 1-point lead in the half at worst. No, meltdown, technical foul, 2 free throws, plus the 2 from the original foul. All of a sudden, Arkansas's up 1. And then they call some asinine play out of that long technical timeout that gives basically a pick 6 to Arkansas. And then all of a sudden you go from up 3 to down 3 at the half, and it's all Will Wade's fault. So Will Wade, gambling graveyard forever. I compliment your take because it was the correct one. He is unbettable. Unbettable.
Trust me, boys. Trust me. There is absolutely no reason to bet your hard-earned money on LSU basketball next week or moving forward. As long as Will Wade's the coach, there's no reason to do it to yourself.
You don't have to worry about it. I don't think they're going to get in.
I think they're in.
I think they're in.
I think they're in. I'm not a
we'll talk about this later. The SEC is such a strong conference.
Yeah, they're in. They're a 6 seed. They're squarely in.
Really?
Although, how about this? Right now, Lenardi has them in a 6-11 matchup against Indiana, who's been the last couple days.
We'll talk more about Indiana too, because Indiana's another sketchy. Oh my gosh, we got to pick which sketchy team and sketchy coach we're gonna back in that spot. I hope that it actually is the matchup.
That would be a very interesting matchup for sure.
That would definitely be a good matchup. A lot to get to on today's show. Before we do, make sure you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. We do this show every day at 10 a.m. Don't want to miss out on any of the great content we're giving out here, unless Jared and Lauren are on the beach in LA, then that time might change. But most days we're doing the show at 10 a.m. And also make sure you download the Pickswise app, available on the Apple App Store and in Google Play. On today's show, before we get into college basketball, we're going to talk some NHL. Then we're going to get into college basketball. Big slate today. Great slate today, actually. Talk a little NBA, and then finish things off with our plays of the day. So without further ado, let's bet it. And Jared, you and I are both off the ice today, looking a lot at basketball. But Zinno, you just can't shake these first period totals. You just love watching 20 minutes of hockey. So tell us what your plays are today.
Why fight it? If it works, why go against it?
Devils to go 20, right?
Devils in Anaheim. Devils number 1 in the NHL. The first period over is 37-19 overall on a 27-6 first period overrun. Anaheim, a 500 team to the first period over, but Jersey's defense is bad enough that they'll give up 2 goals early on, maybe even score one on their own at -150. The juice isn't terrible. I think you can absolutely back them in that spot. Also, you look at another great first period over team in Edmonton and Tampa Bay near the top. Edmonton, the 4th best or 5th best team to first period overs this year at 37-21. Again, you just kind of find these spots with these teams that score early and often. And I will tell you, I didn't put it on the show sheet, but I really feel like Calgary is going to beat the crap out of Detroit tonight. And they'll score 2 goals in the first period alone themselves. I just stayed away from it. And I give you a first period under as well between the New York Rangers and the Dallas Stars, 2 of the lowest teams. In fact, the Rangers are the lowest first period over team. Shesterkin, absolutely insane between the pipes. Rangers may get a goal early on, but Dallas won't get one in the first 20 minutes of this game. So you can go first period under between the Rangers and the Dallas Stars, guys. I mean, it's 20 minutes of hockey. It's beautiful.
I got to ask you, do do you just not like hockey? Can you only stand 20 minutes? Is
Oh,
that
I
is
like
that the logic behind these plays? Like you can
no,
only stand 20 minutes of hockey.
I like winning bets and eliminating variance. Okay. And there's a lot less variance in 20 minutes of hockey versus 60 minutes of hockey. So, and teams that have followed this trend all year long have been really profitable. You look at the teams at the top of the league, like there's no reason to run away from it when you're getting, some of these teams. And if you look at their ROI, a team like the Devils, they're up 15 units of first period overs. The Wild's up 15 units of first period overs. The Blue Jackets up 11 units to first period overs this year. I mean, it's just, when you get that kind of return, there's no reason to walk away from it. Even if you lose, you just double down on the next one. Martingale it. You put whatever 1 unit down. If they don't back it, in the next one, put 2 units down and make your money back. It's just too good of a sample set this year to not follow.
Here's the question that I have. As the games now are a month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks until the playoffs, does that change the handicap at all for you, considering now these games mean a little bit more? We have a little more data. The numbers are a little bit sharper. Like, is that going to change things down the stretch for you at all, Zeno?
I think it only does from a goaltending standpoint. Like if you're giving your goaltender a night off, that could change things. That throws it out of whack a little bit. But when you see, it really kind of depends on just the matchup. For a team like the Florida Panthers, your Ice Cats there, Glaze.
Love
I don't care.
Our Ice Cats.
Ice Cats.
They're a community Ice Cat.
short of them playing the Rangers or somebody else like the Hurricanes or somebody like that who are really good in net. It doesn't matter who's in net. Their offense is good enough to be able for me to believe that they can score 2 goals on their own in the first period. Same thing with a team like Toronto. Toronto's offense is just on fire. So I don't know if it matters unless they're playing one of the best goaltenders in the league. It doesn't matter who they're playing for me. I'll back them as long as they have their full complement. And typically they're not on a back-to-back. That's the only other thing I think you can stay away from. If you get some tired legs, maybe they had an overtime game the night before, whatever it is, that may cause them to have a little bit of slower legs. But even at that, guys, what I told you, what the ROI is on some of these things, that doesn't even matter. The trend is overriding any situational spot that you're looking at.
We got a comment in the chat from Jeff. He keeps hitting. Why not keep playing it?
Thank you, Jeff.
I totally agree. There's one game I'll point you guys in the direction of tonight, and it's basically a default autoplay. Anytime Igor Shesterkin is an underdog, which I think he will be in Dallas tonight, slight underdog, that's an auto bet. I know it's a Homer Rangers pick, but man, they are so good with him in net. And anytime you got that big of a goaltending edge and you're an underdog, it's probably worthy of a play. So keep an eye on the goaltending matchup tonight in Dallas. If it is Shesterkin, that would be a play for me with the Rangers as a slight underdog.
Let's move on and let's talk some college basketball. Before we get into the games, Jared, the people want to know, did you pull an all-nighter last night?
Didn't.
No all-nighter.
Although, the day after I pulled an all-nighter and I consolidated I had 1 million picks on the card, we went 10-2. So I should pull more all-nighters, right?
Yeah. I mean,
my sleep cycle's all screwed up this week.
You want me to tell you something? I'm gonna say this now that enough time has passed, and I don't think my parents are watching the show. And thankfully, they were able to pay for my college. And long story short, I did not pull any all-nighters in college. Never happened.
You love your sleep.
I was one of those people. You want to know what my logic was? I'll study, but as soon as I let out that first yawn, it's over. I'm not learning anything. I'm not doing any more work, and I do that now. Like if I'm working at night, as soon as I yawn, it's over. Not doing it.
I subscribe to the if I don't know it by now, I'm never going to know it theory.
That's true.
When you're pouring a gallon of information into a shot glass of a brain, you're bound to spill some. So I kind of knew what my limit was. Once the stuff was flowing out, I just said, "Hey, I'm done."
That is a great analogy. That is a great.
I knew I was not learning anything after I let out that yawn. I was like, "I'm just forcing it at this point." Just move on here. But guys, we're talking a lot about when we were talking about LSU, about the SEC, and how impressive as a conference they've been this season. Are there any conferences that have impressed you to the point where you're looking at them differently come March? Like we're talking about the potential matchup between LSU and Indiana. Are you looking at LSU differently when you consider how the Big Ten and how the SEC has looked? Are you looking at it from that lens at all?
I don't think that's fair. Down on the Big East a little bit. If Providence is their number 1 seed, I don't know. What do you think?
I wouldn't sleep on the Big East, Jared. I'm telling you. I know you're down on Providence. The
luck train has been derailed.
Well, I mean, look, the depth of that conference, you can go 6 deep, right? And I don't know about Seton Hall, Marquette, and Creighton. Are they locks to get in?
No,
No,
none of them are really.
they're not. I think UConn,
Well,
Villanova.
actually, I think Marquette is in. Yeah, Marquette is in.
Clearly,
Seton
if Creighton
Hall is
wins
in.
today, they're in.
The Big East is going to
Right.
get 7 teams in. That's the second most of any conference, which is
But
impressive.
if any of those 7 teams at any
Can go to the
point,
Final Four. Nova can, right?
Nova absolutely can.
Yeah.
And I know you're down on Providence, and I get why, but they have what it takes, especially the way that they played on the road this year and how good they've been around the road.
They're a very polarizing team.
Well,
I think it's fair to be on either side of the fence with them.
I get what you're saying as far as the luck component, but you could spin that and turn around and say, look, they're good at winning close games, and that matters, right? They know how to win in those tense moments. So that could be a positive for them.
The matchup will be very fascinating
Yes.
for them. I think the American's interesting as well. I think Houston's really good. I think SMU is really good. I think Memphis is really good. And I think that's a conference that I'd be interested in. Obviously down on the ACC. And I'll be honest, I don't know how I feel about the Big Ten. I don't know if there's a contender in the Big Ten to win it all. Like who's the best team in the Big Ten right now?
Listen, I thought I said prior that Illinois and
Purdue
Wisconsin were the
I mean,
only
Purdue, but they don't have the
only
defense
teams
and
that I
they don't have
trusted.
anyone. Their role players aren't good enough.
Right, but I was saying Illinois and Wisconsin were the only teams that I actually trusted to put money on. They both got bounced in their first game, so I kind of lost them a little bit.
I'm
but
down on Purdue. Their defense is not good enough to win it all.
Can I give you a sneaky team from the ACC that I don't think we're talking about enough?
Uh-oh.
Notre Dame.
No. I knew you were going there. I knew you were. How did I know you were going there?
Because you know me, Glaze. We're friends like that.
All right. Go ahead. I will
Sell us
allow
on
you
Notre
to
Dame.
sell the people on Notre Dame. Yeah.
Sell us.
Well, I mean, look, they're good on both ends of the floor. They have size. They're a good rebounding team. I lean on the tournament on teams with good guard play and good defense. I mean, it's those are the teams that do well and make runs in the NCAA tournament. I just feel like they are under the radar. I'm not saying that they're going to be a team that's definitively going to get to the Final Four, but would it shock you if they were in the Sweet 16 and maybe even the Elite 8? I don't think it should.
Well, here's the one thing I will say about the ACC this year. Everyone's down on the ACC.
Yes.
What does that mean? The lines will be more favorable, and odds
100%.
are there's going to be a team that it's kind of hard to put yourself in this mindset in March. We're now at the point next week. You need to eliminate what you saw and the biases that you saw in February and March, except for Will Wade, need to be eliminated from your brain completely, because there are going to be teams that reach up and grab you next week that had no business, completely off the radar, and then all of a sudden they're playing their best basketball of the season. Who's going to be this year's Oregon State? No idea. Hopefully we're going to figure it out between now and next Thursday, but this is the time when the contrarian just lives, eats, breathes.
I mean, the thing I will say about Notre Dame, I was trying to figure out what that freshman's name was. Blake Wesley. He's been great for them. He's their guy.
They
but
got a couple guys. They had that big man that I can't pronounce his last name. Lajewski. Yeah, he had a pretty decent game against Virginia Tech too.
But you talk about the lines there, Jared, for the ACC. Yeah. I will tell you, I think North Carolina is going to get an overinflated line because 100%. Of their offense, and their defense is not good enough to be able to do it. People are going to have that win against Duke, the last game of the season in their mind, and it's going to create.
Duke? Duke's going to be overinflated, I'm sure.
Well, Duke's one of those teams. I mean, Jared, we were texting about this yesterday. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 teams that are just auto fades. We don't even need to see just auto fades in the tournament.
How about every 1 seed in the high majors? I think Kansas was the only team that's covered as a 1 seed in the high majors. Auburn lost outright. Illinois lost outright. Duke hasn't covered yet. Providence gets their butts kicked yesterday. I mean, the number 1 seeds in these conference tournaments have really struggled against the number. Really struggled.
How are we feel? I want to stay with the ACC for a second. How do we feel on Wake Forest in Miami?
I think Miami's in. Wake is not. I don't think Wake's in.
I think Wake has upside though. I do like their team as a whole. You are right; they are not in the field right now, and they probably won't make the field. But I do think there is upside,
which is frustrating because I really enjoyed their offense. I thought their offense was fantastic. Their defense probably a little bit underrated. Not terrible, not like UNC Alabama bad. But bad enough. But their offense was so fast paced.
Steve Forbes done a really good job. He's a really good coach. Came over from East Tennessee.
I could have played Wake Forest overs throughout the tournament for as long as they lasted.
All right, we got a question in the chat here. We can all talk about this. I know it's not on the rundown. Does Iowa win today? Iowa's hot
Yes.
right now, no doubt.
I love Iowa. I'll be honest, sleeper Final Four team.
Play the day right here, guys.
They have the offense. They have the offense.
Ian Murray's a freaking stud.
My Pickswise play of the day is Iowa. I'll give you a little advance notice.
What I will say, Jared, is you're talking about them being a Final Four team. I cannot get out of my head. I know you're saying flush it, forget it. That Illinois game down the stretch, those free throws.
Yeah.
Free throws down the stretch, they just couldn't do it. They just
Lukey, that's a tough. I mean,
and those were their guys at the line too. Those are their guys, and they couldn't hit the free throw.
How about the poor kid on St. Bonaventure yesterday that missed two? I mean, like when I think that is a good example of the moment overtaking any statistic or any metric that we can look at and handicap. And when a kid that's an 82% free throw shooter like Kyle Lofton yesterday that misses two, down one with 5 seconds left or however many seconds were left, we can handicap the game till we're blue in the face for 6 hours and be the smartest, have the best model in the world. There's no model that's going to predict missing 2 free throws when you're an 82% free throw.
You know what they call that, Glaze?
I created the model. The model is don't trust the kids. That's don't trust the
your
kids.
Free throws.
The kids at the that's the worst spot. Don't trust them at the free throw line. No. Every time a kid goes to the free throw line and they need to make them, you can't trust them.
The official gambling term for that is variance. That's what you want to try to eliminate, and you can't. Right, as Jared just said, you can back a guy that has an 82% free throw shooter. He misses them. Human element takes over. Right handicap, wrong side. It happens all the time.
Yep.
We got Glenn in the chat. I worry about Iowa being a bad free throw shooting team and living by the
100%.
three. But
let me hold on. Is Iowa a bad? Because there's one thing for one guy to miss 2 free throws late. Iowa is a 75% free throw shooting.
I think they had a bad. I was gonna say I don't know about them being a bad free throw shooting team. That was a bad game. That was a bad night.
But by the way, they still covered. Because I was on Iowa in that game. They still covered.
Were they catching 2?
4.
I think they were catching 4. This is an interesting game today against Indiana because I think the letdown factor matters, right?
Because Mark, Indiana, I think, punched their ticket with their win yesterday.
100%.
They're in now. So now it's almost like they need to win to get in. Now it's like,
are they really in?
I think they're in.
I see that they're in. It looks like they're in.
I think they were on the bubble, and I think they were on the bubble. I think they punched.
I think they got to win one more. I really do.
If that's the case, then today's game is huge. And I felt the same way about A&M yesterday. I'm kicking myself for not just hammering A&M. I mean, that game meant nothing to Auburn. Auburn probably wasn't a 1 seed anyways if Kentucky would have won the SEC tournament. And these teams that need to win, it can go one of 2 ways. It can be like Wake Forest where they drastically underperform, or yesterday like A&M drastically overperform. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a blowout yesterday from start to finish.
Like you said, if Indiana makes it, they got to be in the 11 first 4. They got to be one of those.
In the first probably going to.
I have a hard time. Anybody who's below 500 in the conference, to me,
totally.
You have to have some really high signature wins on your resume, and I don't know that Indiana has them.
Purdue. I mean,
Purdue is a flawed team.
I think Purdue is on fade. Purdue's on the fade list, boys, for next week. Purdue's on the fade list.
100%. I mean,
today, I think they're in good shape, but next week they're on the fade list.
So
what about today? Are they on the fade list today? I mean, this is an interesting matchup against Michigan State.
If Michigan State doesn't make threes, they're inept offensively. It's really what it boils down to. If Michigan State makes threes and pushes the pace, they have a great chance to win the game and go to the final. But I've seen enough of Michigan State's offense not to trust them.
Yeah. Line analysis wise, I thought Michigan State off of that upset yesterday and Purdue looking shaky against Penn State. Let's be honest. That game could have gone either way. I thought the line was going to be a lot tighter. I thought Michigan State was going to be catching maybe 3. When it was 6, I was like, they don't care. They're inviting that Sparty action today. I think Purdue wins today. I think it's a good matchup for Purdue. I think they played them they had a really bad game at the Brez a couple weeks ago. And I think they played better today. I think they were 1 of 9 from 3 in that game, and they turned it over 17 times. And Michigan State was 9 of 20 from 3. If that is even slightly more, towards the center today with those 3-point, outputs, I think Purdue wins this game pretty handily.
Yeah, big slate today. So, Jared, what are some of the other games that you're looking at?
Yeah, so I'll start at the top of my card. I'll save Virginia Tech Duke for the end. That's my play of the day. It's obvious based on the last 2 days what I've been on, what I'm betting today. Not really much of a tease there. But I'll start on the MAC. How about the MAC? And your Toledo Rockets really had a rough game yesterday.
Man, rough shooting, rough free throw shooting. Just a bad day for for Todd Kowalczyk and the Rockets. Tough.
And
break.
Akron took advantage, and I think it's a nice win.
Well, Akron could shoot. They all of a sudden can shoot. Like, that was the difference in that game.
Yeah, but I think Kent State's a little underrated here in this game.
Agreed.
The Flashes, 12 straight wins. They've covered in 9 of them. They're 2-0 not only straight up, but also against the number against Akron this year. So they've had the Zips number. And how about Sincere Carey? Can we give this dude some love? The MAC Player of the Year, scored double digits in 12 straight. Oh, by the way, Kent State also has the 6th Man of the Year in the MAC, Justin Hamilton. So I think at any point in time, Kent State has the 2 best players on the floor, Carey and Hamilton. Listen, Akron's playing well. Great game yesterday. 6 straight wins. They were dogs in 3 of them. So they've won outright as underdogs in 3 of those 6 games. But to me, I think this comes down to free throw shooting and poise. And the Zips are not a good free throw shooting team, 67% on the year. Akron's over 71%. And in a tight game with a short spread, I went money line here. I got it last night at -120. I'll take the team that shoots better from the line and has won more games in a row and has won 2 and covered 2 against Akron this year. So I'll take the Flashes in this spot, winning the MAC and moving on to the tourney.
The MAC should be a multi-bid league. I mean, they should be. They should be. I mean, tough break for Toledo. I think this
is
Toledo
go to the NIT.
Second year in a row that they won the MAC in the regular season and then didn't make the tournament. I mean, they're gonna go to the NIT, fade them in the NIT because they don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. They don't care about playing the NIT. So tough break for Toledo. What else do you want, Jared?
Yeah. So I was going back and forth on this one. I put it on the card. SMU catching 5 against Memphis. Listen, Memphis already lost 2 games to SMU this year. I know Memphis is legit, and I take nothing away from Penny's boys. When they get up and down, they can put them up in a hurry. But to me, catching 5 in a semifinal. So the Tigers, they got out to that really hot start against UCF, gave it all back, almost gave up the lead, ended up covering. And I just feel like SMU is a really tough team. And I think the fact that they're catching 5 in a game that they need, they're still on the bubble. They need this game. I certainly like the handicap of catching points with teams that need to win over teams that necessarily don't need to be there. But Memphis being on their home floor scares me. I would say of all my picks today, SMU is the least favorite. I love La Tech today in the Conference USA title game. I don't know if you guys watched that UAB middle game yesterday. That game was bonkers.
How could we not watch our guy Jelly Walker? How could we not watch
Jelly Walker was unbelievable. So I don't love fading Jelly Walker today. UAB did win and cover both meetings earlier this year. But off the 3 overtime game, I'm catching 4 again. And I lean dogs in these spots if I'm catching points in situational spots where I think I'm kind of on the right side. But we'll see. UAB is really, really tough. And I don't want to be on the wrong side of Jelly Walker going off again, but I think I'll take the points, and I'll take the points with SLU catching 3.5 against Davidson. I know you like this spot too, because Davidson to me is a team that is already in the tournament. No matter what happens today, SLU is playing for their tournament lives. They got smoked earlier this season at Davidson. Didn't play well. I think they play better today. So all dogs today for me, except for Kent State, which is on the money line as a short favorite. But SMU, SLU, La Tech, Kent State. Those are the plays, non-POD plays for me today, boys.
Love it. Zeno, what you got?
All right. Well, I'll save one of them for my play of the day as Iowa. We'll get to that handicap later on. But Arizona laying 1 against UCLA in the Pac-12 final. I know Kirk Kriisa is out. He's not going to play till the NCAA tournament. Probably part of the reason why this line is so short. But come on. I mean, I've been high on the Pac-12 and I've been high on USC and UCLA as good, well-rounded teams, but they're not as good as Arizona. And Arizona with this short of a number, it does give me a little bit of pause to look at them and go, why is this number that short? Something is off. But I'm going to trust the fact that it's more about Kriisa's injury than anything else, and that Arizona is just so good offensively and so good defensively, enough that I only got to win this thing by a point. The number is too short. I'm going to back Arizona here. I don't really have much hesitation on it. As good as and balanced as UCLA is, they are not as competent offensively as Arizona is, and defensively, particularly Arizona can do a really good job at keeping this UCLA team into the mid-60s. And if they do that, I don't think Arizona should have a problem getting to 70 and covering this number. I'm going to go to Conference USA, Tulane, getting 13 points here from Houston, 13.5 in certain spots. Shop around. While Houston has been great all year long, I think they're one of the more complete teams in all of college basketball. They won the 2 games against Tulane earlier this year by 14 and 11. So I think the number is about right. I just think it's too many points for a conference final game between these two teams. I mean, obviously Tulane won't get in the tournament unless they win this thing and steal a bid, which I don't think they'll do. But I just think it's too many points. You probably get some free throws on the back end here for me to back the Green Wave to be able to close within this number. Tulane will obviously be motivated, and you're sort of riding that streak, much similar to what Texas A&M is doing, much similar to what Virginia Tech is doing, of these teams who are just pushing through their conference tournament enough for them to keep this close and give Houston a sweat. Also wouldn't look bad to take Tulane rather in the first half. If they can keep it close in the first half, I'll have a ton of confidence to double down on Tulane in a live spot here to keep this thing close. Tennessee plus 2.5. Love the Volunteers today. Love
Do
the
you?
Volunteers today. The rubber match between Tennessee and Kentucky. I just love the Volunteers defense. I think it's the best defense in America right now. Rick Barnes looking for some vindication. And oh, how great it would be to get the rubber match between Kentucky and Tennessee, and then the rubber match between Arkansas and Tennessee, and for Rick Barnes to win them both and cut down the nets as the SEC champion. Very high on Tennessee. The only 2 ways to bet this, right, guys? You take Tennessee with the points or take Kentucky on the money line.
Yes.
Like, you really not worried about Kentucky only winning by 1, are you? Right? So just take them on the money line. So it's not even worth it at that point in time. But I think that's the only way you bet these things. And then I'll go dumpster diving. You ready for this? I hope you guys enjoy this because I don't do this often.
Yeah, you're usually a high major guy. I got my popcorn for this one.
I am very highfalutin there, Jared. You have to understand. Glaze knows my tastes are very fine.
The palate is very refined.
Yes, he has a refined palate.
It's on the high end, but we are going to go to the dive bar out in the WAC, Abilene Christian.
Oh, my goodness.
Love it.
Gotta love it here. Like, here's the thing about Abilene Christian, okay? Defense is very good. Number 1 in the nation in steals. This number is steaming in the other direction, like getting more points for Abilene Christian. It opened up, I think, at 3.5, went to 4. Now
yeah,
it's
that is really steamy.
And so I am just backing the Abilene Christian Wildcats, man. I'm going to say a little prayer up and down like this for the Abilene Christian Wildcats today, getting 5 points. I probably still think New Mexico State wins the game. But Abilene Christian, my game script has them actually leading for a better part of the first half into the second half. And then New Mexico State takes over, ends up winning the thing by 2 or 3, but Abilene Christian gets me a cover.
So here's Abilene's fascinating. First of all, they were in the tourney last year. They beat Texas. Really good team, well coached. This is their 4th game in 4 nights, and this is New Mexico's 2nd game in 2 nights. That's why the steam came in on New Mexico State. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, that could just mean a bunch of people are just playing that situationally. But Abilene's a tough out. They are a tough team. Again, tourney team last year, won a game. That line's probably moved too much.
That's interesting.
Same thing happened yesterday with VCU and Richmond. All of a sudden, VCU went from -1 to -4. And I'm like, oh, crap, everyone's on VCU. And, of course, Richmond just demolishes them. The steam isn't always right, boys and girls.
Just I have to ask you guys, how proud are you of me of that dumpster dive? I thought that was
I think it's the
dumpster
dive of the season.
Zeno, I'm going to join you in the dumpster later for my play of the day. I mean,
we're really going to dive in.
I don't think guys even
today.
Listen, you think that you have a refined palate. I don't even look at the dumpster. I don't even look that way. But today I find myself creeping in there with you, but we'll get into that later on in the show.
I think I'm going to tell you on Zona, Mark. I like that line flipped overnight, I think, for good reason. I think that's a good spot for Zona. They looked fine without that point guard yesterday. They were moving it up and down, and Colorado's a good team. Tad Boyle's a hell of a coach, and they had no issues yesterday. And Arizona did not shoot it well, and they should have covered, really, and they didn't. And I think Arizona might be the spot today. I think I might tell you on that one.
I almost made that my POD, but let's just.
That's on the fence. I think that's getting locked in right now.
Awesome. Well, we'll get back to college basketball later on with our plays today. I think we're all in college basketball for the plays.
All in the kids today.
Yeah, we're all in. So we'll
kids, except we're all going to bet them.
Yeah, we're all gonna bet them later on. Let's talk a little NBA real quick. And I want to talk about this Warriors team because they have an interesting matchup today against the Bucks. Both these teams have the second best odds to win their respective conferences on FanDuel. Are you guys backing either the Bucks or the Warriors to win their conference over the Nets and the Suns? Zeno, you are who and why?
I like the Suns.
Milwaukee right now.
Really?
They're playing so well as of late. Like, if you've watched their offense as of late, it is everybody. And oh, by the way, they don't even have their full complement of offense yet. Pat Connaughton's still injured. He's an excellent 3-point shooter for that team. I mean, they're getting it from everybody. Middleton, Giannis. It's just they actually look like they're playing like they want the number 1 seed. Like, even though it doesn't matter to them, they are playing that way. They are surging right now. Offensively, they are just a juggernaut as of late, consistently in the 120s. Backing him tonight on the road. They're 15-7 this year against the number as a road favorite. First time all year long that Golden State has been a home dog. I just don't like the way Golden State is playing tonight, or as of late without Draymond Green. Like, usually when you lose a key player, right, teams will adapt and mature and start to figure out ways to good teams will start to figure out ways to win without that individual. It's not happening for Golden State at all. They're not improving. They're actually getting worse. And their defense actually is starting to slack now too. I mean, and I say by starting to slack, they fell from number 2 in the league at 103 points per game to number 5 in the league at 105 points per game. But it tells you this was also a Golden State team that went on a run prior to the last 3 games that they've covered. They were 1-11 ATS over their 12-game span. So they have struggled mightily against the number as of late.
Need Draymond. But I'm interested. I don't think people are giving enough credit, which might sound crazy to say, to this Nets team. I mean, I think the Nets are still getting a little bit of disrespect at their number. What is it, plus 240 to win the East, I believe? Yeah,
I think it's tough with the Nets because they're going to be in the play-in game.
They're going to be in the play, but we
was 100% right, by the way. So Golden State, they've got the 3rd best defensive rating of the year in the NBA. Over the last 10 games, they're 19th. That is a massive drop-off from their norm, which is a top 5 defensive rated team, to now over the last 10, they've basically been a bottom 10 team. That's significant when you're trending down in that direction. The Nets are people don't understand is when Ben Simmons gets in that lineup, how big of a deal that is going to be for them. I don't know.
Defensively, that is going to be.
I think you're right.
They won't need him to score. They won't need him to score at all.
Good, because
he can literally just facilitate, defend, and let Kyrie and KD do all the other work. And listen, Seth Curry has come along and been great. Patty Mills has been great. Andre Drummond has been a great inside presence for them. Like,
they got better with that trade, no doubt. Complete. They got better with that trade.
Here's the problem, though. Still, again, when you talk about them winning the East, it's a good thing they, believe it or not, them not having home court advantage plays in their favor, because you're getting Kyrie Irving for 4 games.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that actually helps them. But they have to be able to win on the road. They haven't been that great at this year.
No. They have been good on the road this year.
No, that's what I'm saying. They haven't been that great this year at home. And obviously Kyrie is a big part of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the talent is there. It's just consistency is an issue. Like, you're waiting for this team to be able to go on a run. And I don't know why the mayor of New York wouldn't just lift the damn restriction, just to back.
The biggest joke in the world, that if someone from Indiana can fly in and play a game, and that Kyrie can attend a game and not
without a mask on and not vaccinated, but he can't play.
It's the freaking thing in the world. But that's the world we live in.
We still have time for that rule to change. Hopefully, as things are evolving throughout the country, across the board. When it comes to mandates and things like that. So definitely interesting. The Suns look like the best team at basketball, right? I like how we're talking about the East. The Suns look like the best team at basketball.
To me, that's that. If I had to pick a team to win it all right now, that would be my team that I would pick.
Yeah.
Like, throw the odds out, numbers, markets, any of that crap doesn't matter. If I had to say you have one bullet to fire, I pick the Suns right now.
Yeah. See, the problem is that bullet has written on the side, Chris Paul, NBA champion, and I just don't know if that bullet actually exists. So
magic bullet.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
but they look like the best team, even without Chris Paul. They still look
They're so deep. They're the deepest team.
So
they're
tough.
just so much talent.
Absolutely.
A play I'm looking at for tonight that we'll go back to the Warriors. We were talking about this. I noticed this right before we actually started the show. Andrew Wiggins over 2.5 assists at plus money on FanDuel.
Yeah,
that's over that number in 5 straight games. I think that's a solid play.
I might tell you on that one. That's a
solid play. So I'm looking at that for tonight. Zeno, you have an NBA play that you're liking tonight?
I do, and it's actually up on the Pickswise website as well. Going to go to Miami and Minnesota. Now, both these teams on a back-to-back. Minnesota lost to lowly Orlando last night, had a 6-game win streak snapped. Miami beat up on Cleveland. but I'm going to look at the total in this game when we're sitting here at 225. Minnesota is the highest scoring team in the league, and they have been on an absolute tear on the road this year. 23-8 to the over, just an insane number. Miami this year at home, their offense not as good as we would have expected, but 17-14 to the over at home this year. And get this, guys, this was the clincher. Both of these teams this year hitting better than 75% to the over on back-to-backs. Minnesota 9-3 to the over on back-to-backs. Miami 9-2. This number at 224, way too short for any Minnesota game whatsoever. I know Miami's defense is good, but it doesn't have to be, Minnesota's offense doesn't have to be great tonight to be able to get to 110 to get over this number. So this is just a gift, right? What we're looking at with a number this small for a Minnesota team that averages 115 points a game. I love the over tonight, Minnesota and Miami.
Interesting.
Zeno's on the site. 3 stars, baby.
3 stars. If Zeno's giving it 3 stars, he doesn't give it those 3 stars easily.
No. Those are like the full-size candy bars on Halloween.
You ain't kidding, right? I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
Have you noticed how we went from king-size candy bars to now shareable? What's the deal with that? I noticed that the other day when I got a bag of pretzel M&Ms, the best kind of M&Ms, by the way.
Those are, I actually haven't tried. That's the one I haven't tried. Have you tried the brownie ones? Are those any good?
Brownie? No, I've
There's
never.
brownie M&Ms now.
I have a hard time walking away from peanut. Like I get the pretzel.
Yeah, peanut and peanut butter also elite.
Peanut butter I can't get with you there, but peanut I think is one of the more underrated M&Ms.
Classic.
Totally agree. Classic.
Top 3 candy of all time.
That's a best bet right there. That's a POD. And peanut M&Ms.
They're not more underrated than Crunch bars. The Crunch bars are heavily slept.
Crunch bars are classic too. And anytime I go to the movies, bunch of Crunch. That's another
bunch of Crunch.
It's funny. Somebody told me like they changed the crispy thing in the Crunch bar, which is why it's
blasphemous. It's blasphemous.
Somebody told me. I'm like, yeah. As a kid, all I wanted was a Crunch bar as a kid.
100%.
That's interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, now we're breaking down the candy sector. I mean, you get everything on this show.
Well, hold on. Before we move on from this, we had the Crunch bars, and then what is it? Crackle? Was it Crackle?
Oh,
Crackle
yeah, that's like the off-brand Crunch bar.
But no. But Crackle's good in its own right.
What about Mr. Good Bar? That's the other one.
You guys are leaving out the best crispy bar there is, and that's a whatchamacallit.
Oh, yeah.
Whatchamacallit is underrated. You never had a whatchamacallit?
I've never even heard of a whatchamacallit.
Oh, my God. It will change your life.
And if you're into the British candy, Crunchy and Flake, Cadbury, tremendous. Now that's like
when you say Cadbury, I think of those cream eggs and vomit.
That's like dumpster diving in the candy sector.
Yes,
but
you are.
Interesting. All right, let's get out of here. Let's give out some plays of the day. Jared, we got any 3-star plays on the site other than Zeno's great play?
Actually, our buddy Kyle Vandershaw has a play on your Coppin State Norfolk game, and it's a positive one for you. So we'll leave it there. Also, Matt Markart's got a total play in MSU Purdue, which is fascinating because I think if the handicap goes the way we think it's going to go, with Michigan State and Purdue both kind of, flying around the court, this is going to be another interesting one. And Chadwick Wetzel also has a play tonight, no surprise, on the Wings and the Flames. You could guess where he's going there with Calgary at home. But there's a lot. There's a thick card. Zeno is one of many today on the 3-star card.
Our guys are confident today. They're confident. I love it.
Yeah, Jared, what's your play? Talk about my last 3-star play of the day real quick, though. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Let's
enjoy So this is the second 3-star play I've given out. I went to the over 230 between the Nets and the Sixers the other night. Of course, the Sixers were unstoppable with James Harden offense until they met Brooklyn. But they had a total of, I needed 5 total points to clear the over with 2 minutes and 13 seconds left. They scored
230 and a half, I think was the total.
Yes, 230. Well, it was 230. I got it at 230.
Okay.
And so I needed 5 total points. They had 226. I needed 5 total points. They scored 3, and it ended at 229. Just vomitous. Just an awful end of that game for me.
It's terrible.
Right.
Bounce back. What do you got today? Tell the people.
What we're going to do. My Pickswise play of the day is we will bounce back. I'm going to lay it with the Iowa Hawkeyes, 6 points. Iowa is incredibly hot right now. They're on a 5-0 ATS run. 8-2 over their last 10, 21-12 on the season, number 4 offense in the nation, averaging nearly 85 points per game. Look, go back to the last game that Indiana won. They had 2 things in their favor. One of them was that Illinois hadn't played a game yet. And so there was a rust versus rest scenario there. But also, Alfonso Smith, the lead point guard for Illinois, usually a guy gets 15 points a game, went 2 of 12 and scored 6 points. That's the only reason Indiana is in this game. I have no reason to trust Indiana's offense is able to keep up with Iowa. It's a correlating bet situation as well, because there's no way Indiana can win an over total at 144. Indiana's not getting to 70 in this game or 75 and holding Iowa to less than that. It's not going that way. So the only way Indiana wins this thing is if it goes under. Hawkeyes can score. They'll do it at will. I like them in the first half. I like them in the total game, -6. Let's go Hawkeyes.
All right, Jared, what you got?
I like Iowa too. They're in my, so I put together a chalk money line parlay. If you guys want to tail it, we'll have some fun. Iowa's in there. So is Purdue, and Kentucky's in there too. I respect Zeno's take on Tennessee, but man, I just think Kentucky's the best. Also, I think Kentucky's going for the 1 seed. I think they see the 1 seed with Auburn losing, and they can reach out and grab it if they can win that SEC tournament. And I think Cal will have his boys up for that game today. That should be probably one of my favorite games on the card today, is that Tennessee-Kentucky game. I think we're going to learn a lot about both teams. But my play of the day, listen, we've gone at 2 straight. Might as well go for the trifecta. Virginia Tech catching 6 against Duke. Duke has been a high wire act in this ACC tournament. They won both games, but they haven't covered either one. They allowed 76 and 79 points to undermanned Miami and Syracuse in back-to-back nights. I cannot imagine that Virginia Tech won't be majorly up for this game. They are clearly on the bubble. I think if they win, actually, no. If they win, they're obviously in. I think if they lose, they're still probably in. But I don't know for sure. And I think if you're Virginia Tech, you got to make sure you leave no doubts today. They looked really good yesterday against UNC. Now, UNC didn't play their best game. They didn't shoot it well. But I think Virginia Tech is all of a sudden an it team. And I'll take 6 in a game against Duke that Duke does not need. They're probably going to be a 1 seed regardless. And I think Virginia Tech, you got to just keep pressing. When you bet on a team in conference tournament week and they play well, and then you bet on them again another night as a dog and they play well and cover and win outright, just like craps. Hit that 6, hit that 8, you keep pressing. So we're going to take Tech again, catching 6, and hope they can put up a good performance against Duke and punch that ticket to the tournament. Go Hokies, baby. Hokie high.
Love it.
Tech,
All right.
VPI. There you go.
We're talking about punching tickets, right? Talking about punching tickets.
Here we go.
I want to talk about Coppin State. Coppin State, the Eagles, a team that's very close to my heart, my family's heart.
Okay.
Jared, before we get into the play, though, I got to ask you a quick question. Do you know who Coppin State's head coach is?
I don't. Stump me.
I know Zeno knows.
He's raising his hand. I'll call on Zeno.
Go ahead.
It's Juan Dixon, Maryland legend.
Is it really?
Juan Dixon.
Wow.
So we're talking about punching tickets, right? Juan Dixon knows what it feels like to cut down those nets, right? He's been to this tournament. He knows what that feeling's like. So he's going to get his guys up for this game. I mean, Coppin was a terrible team this season in the MEAC. Terrible. But they have pulled off a couple of upsets, and now they are 1 win away from punching their tickets. Do they have 10 wins? I think they're a 9-win team.
Yeah.
We're talking about potentially going dancing, right? This is a very interesting team, but I am actually going with Norfolk State today. That is my play of the day. Norfolk State -7.5. Listen, it's been a fun story. Coppin has been a lot of fun to watch in this tournament, but the fun ends today. Norfolk State has just been the best team in the MEAC throughout this season. They haven't they've won both of their tournament games by 8 points or more. They're the best defensive team, the best shooting team in the MEAC. Coppin has just hit a little bit of a luck streak, I would say. I mean, well, not luck, because Jesse Zarzuela had 27 yesterday against NCCU, but I just don't see that happening today against the Norfolk State team that has the best defense in the MEAC, holding opponents to 64 points per game this season. And listen, I'll throw this one out there to both of you. Do you guys know where the MEAC tournament is played?
It's in Maryland, I'm assuming, right? No?
Zeno, do you know?
No idea. Isn't it in DC or no?
It's at the Norfolk Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia.
Right.
This is basically a home game for Norfolk State today. So
I knew that because I have Norfolk State in a future to win today.
So this is great. So listen, I'm laying the 7.5 points. Laying the 7.5 points with confidence today. This is basically a home game for the Spartans. They are going back to the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row after they handle business against Coppin today. I want to back Coppin, but I can't do it. Can't do it today. Bad spot for them. Bad spot. That was a tease, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I thought you were going Coppin.
No. Come on, I'm smarter than that. While we're talking about Juan Dixon here, his name's kind of been thrown around a little bit as Maryland's looking for its next head coach. Curious if you have any thoughts on that. I've talked to a couple of former Maryland guys, Maryland players, and they are not on board with that.
Don't do it. Don't. It's you're setting the guy up for failure.
Agreed.
Maryland's had a rough year. It's been a rough year for Maryland.
It's been really bad year, but again, to take that job, part of the allure of Maryland coming to the Big Ten was to add more juice to the basketball conference, and they haven't done that so far. And so
hold on. I'm not going to let you get that take off.
Okay, well,
Maryland moving to the Big Ten was all about football. It was not about anything other than football.
No, but you get the added that you were elevating the basketball conference
because of the Big Ten Network. Is that what you're?
Yes, of course. Yeah, okay. I mean it was, and to get that market, that was the other part of it.
The DC market.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the.
Here's the thing: like Juan Dixon hasn't won even a conference tournament anywhere yet. Like you're setting him up for massive failure to take a leap from Coppin to somewhere. He's got to get some more victories under his belt. He's got to win a conference tournament somewhere to just bring him back.
More than 9 games in a season, right?
Yeah.
Well, Maryland, they need a guy that can recruit. They need to keep guys in the Maryland, DC, the DMV area. They can't let that talent leave. They need a guy.
They don't care about X's and O's. And don't get me wrong, you're talking to the biggest Patrick Ewing fan in the world. I watch when they do the Big East, insiders, and they show the huddles and what Patrick Ewing is saying, and then I compare it to what Greg McDermott says to his Creighton boys. It's night and day. Patrick Ewing is not an X's and O's guy, but he recruits the hell out of that program, and that is the draw compared to a guy like McDermott, who's a hell of a coach, X's and O's, knows everything, but probably doesn't recruit as well as a guy like Ewing or Juan Dixon would to Maryland.
Well,
it's an interesting dynamic between how much of a recruiter do you want and how much of a coach X's and O's. That's where the assistants.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need someone that knows X's and O's, because
just like Michigan with Juwan Howard, you have Phil Martelli. It's like that. That's the dynamic you're looking for.
Yeah. We got a question before we get out of here about Frisco Disco, Jared.
The Frisco Disco. So we were on the under in the first game, which was the lowest scoring game in college basketball all season between Louisiana Tech and North Texas. I didn't like the under in the second game because UAB presses. And I think that is what scares me today, the defensive legs after a 3 overtime game for UAB. Obviously, the trend says under. I think the unders are 8-4 in the Frisco Disco so far. But I'll just take the points with La Tech. We'll leave the under trend. We're up with unders for the week with the Frisco Disco. We'll just retire it because in a championship game, who freaking knows? But obviously, the trend says under 8-4 in the first 12.
There we go. All right, boys. Well, we covered a lot today. A lot going on today. Good luck with all of your plays today, and make sure you tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. We will be back tomorrow. Good luck.